A very good evening and welcome. This is your weekend edition of Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Bringing you the news this evening, I'm Mariam Ganavijaya. We start off with a look at your headlines.
Severe weather, 3 dead, over 55,000 displaced. Minor flood warnings for Kalani, Kalu and Attanugula Oya river basins. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters expected. Cast aside party politics and commit to addressing the food crisis. A statement from the president. Charita hits back. First culprit of economic crisis was cabinet, including Minister Sabri. Sri Lanka women clinch Asia Cup runners-up spot.
We start off with a look at the weather situation in the country. Now, 3 people have died while 2 have been injured owing to the persistent rainfall being experienced these days. 55,000 people have been displaced, but the most tragic incident was reported from Varkapula.
G. Premasiri, his wife and 2 sons lived in this house located on a 50 perch land in Thumbiliyadda, Mainnoloa in Varkapula. A mound of earth collapsed onto their house without warning. Premasiri and his wife and their 24-year-old son were inside the house at the time of the incident. His 10-year-old son, however, was not at home. He was attending a class. Search operations carried out together with area residents began on Friday evening. Security forces and local residents managed to locate Premasiri and immediately admitted him to the hospital. Operations to locate his wife and son continued. Despite heavy showers, around 70 officers belonging to the Sri Lanka Singha Regiment of the Kegol and Ambepussa army camps continued their search. After hours of searching, the lifeless body of Premasiri's 48-year-old wife was found. This was the moment when their pet dog escaped.
This is what is left of the house in Mainnoloa, Varkapula, where a landslide completely swept through this house. As you can see, the landslide came from that direction and it completely swept through this house. Now, a family was living inside the house at the time of this tragic incident. The father had survived. The authorities have found the body of the mother. Unfortunately, she had not survived. And they, as you can see, it's 6 a.m. And right now, the authorities, mainly the Sri Lanka Army, and with the support of area residents, are going through the debris to find the missing son.
The body of Premasiri's 24-year-old son was then recovered from under the debris.
The NBRO is assessing the situation. It is calculating the risk, and if it is safe for the people to stay here, those who have to be moved to safer zones will be moved and provided with their necessities.
Many houses in the vicinity were also damaged due to the landslide. People living in the neighborhood, that's from about 15 houses, were also relocated to safe zones.
ගෙවල් සියල්ලම චෙක් කරලා බලලා අපිට ඉන්න සුදුසුද නුසුදුසුද කියලා හොයලා බලලා අපිට උපදෙස් දීලා අපිට සහනයක් වෙන විදිහට කටයුතු කරනවා නම් ඉතාමත් හොඳයි කියලා මම කියනවා.
Premasiri is now receiving treatment at the Kegol hospital. One person has gone missing after falling into a water-filled mine in the Vagavatta area in Horana. Police said that the mine had flooded following heavy rains last afternoon. They said around 5 people were working to remove equipment, including the water motors located inside the mine. During their attempt, one man had fallen into the mine and was missing. He has been identified as a resident of Horona. The irrigation department says due to heavy rains, a slight flood situation has been observed in several areas around the Kalu and Kaleniganga and the Attanagalu basins. With the rising water levels of the Kalani River, several houses and roads have been inundated in several areas, including Vallampitiya, Vallavatta and Kalani Nadi Gama. In many areas of the Tharala intersection in Pugoda, lowlands have been inundated. 58 houses are currently underwater at the Hangveli Sivali estate. This was the situation this morning in low-lying areas around the Katunayaka Bandaranaike International Airport, which includes Kimbulapitiya, Galmankada, Dagonna and Kadirana. With the rising water levels of the Kalani River, many villages in the Biyagama Pradeshi division are flooded. The Malwana Colombo Road from the Lakshapana area and the Colombo Biyagama Road from Pattivila area are flooded. Moreover, the Kaduwela town as well as many houses in Biyagama Pahalagama area are also underwater. With heavy rains, 2 sluice gates of the Kukuleganga reservoir have been opened. Due to this, with the overflowing of the Kudaganga, the Paragoda, Dambala and Atambahande areas of the main roads of Bulat Sinhala Molkava Road are completely submerged. Kalutara Angalavatta and Kudaligama areas are also underwater. The Ratnapura district is currently experiencing heavy rains. This is the situation in Aheliyogoda, in Lower Nagoda and Gatahatta. The Galle district saw less rain today. However, many low-lying areas in Benthara, Urugasman, Handiya are still underwater. Low-lying areas on either side of the Gin River have been inundated since yesterday. Fishermen in Point Pedro and Totamuna areas did not go to sea today due to rough seas along the Mathura coastline. Meanwhile, last afternoon, a mound of earth had collapsed onto a house in the Muraitota area in Haliyala. Residents were not harmed in the incident. Landslide warnings issued for Colombo, Galle, Kalutara, K-Galle, Nuwara and Ratnapura districts have been extended.
Also taking a quick look at the weather forecast issued by the Met Department. Now, the prevailing heavy showers are expected to continue. Heavy showers exceeding 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamu and central provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. Fairly heavy showers exceeding 75 millimeters can be expected elsewhere. For the first time in 14 years, the Sri Lanka's women cricket team became runners-up at the Asian Cup. The Indian women's cricket team won the tournament, beating the Sri Lankan women's team by 8 wickets in Bangladesh on Saturday.
It's going to spin the coin. Heads is the call.
We are going back first.
The final match of the Women's Asia Cup tournament was played in Sylhet, Bangladesh today, and Sri Lanka won the toss and opted to bat first.
Just plays it beautifully. What a delightful shot.
Chamri Attapattu and Anushka Sanjeevani opened the innings. Sri Lanka lost their first 5 wickets with the score on just 16 runs.
Gone! The Sri Lankan skipper.
Enoka Ranavira top scored with 18 runs, hitting 2 boundaries. Oshadi Ranasinghe scored 13.
Give them a...
India's Renuka Singh bagged 3 wickets. Sri Lanka ended their 20 overs on 65 for 9. India began their chase with a strong opening partnership of 32 runs between Shafali Verma and Smriti Mandana. In the end, the India women cruised to victory in 8.3 overs, losing just 2 wickets.
What a way to a 7th time for the Women's Asia Cup 2022.
Since the change to T20 cricket from the traditional 50-over format, this was Sri Lanka's most successful Asia Cup result. India's Deepthi Sharma was named player of the tournament.
As well. Keep using the word, but they have been...
This is the 7th time the Indian women's side has won the Asia Cup.
And deserving champions getting their hands on that trophy.
The 2022 T20 World Cup, which will decide the world champions in the 2020 format, starts on Sunday in Australia. The current Asia Cup champions Sri Lanka take on Namibia in the tournament's curtain raiser.
The 2020 Cricket World Cup, which started in the year 2007, changed the face of limited over cricket with its faster paced style when compared to ODI cricket. Since 2007, 7 T20 World Cups have been held, and the West Indies is the most successful team in the format after being crowned T20 champions in both 2012 and 2016. Sri Lanka were runners-up in the tournament in 2009 and 2012, further fueling the thirst for cup victories among local fans. Then in 2014, the Lankan Lions clinched the T20 World Cup hosted by Bangladesh, defeating a strong Indian side. It became Sri Lanka's first World Cup triumph since the glorious 1996 Cricket World Cup win under the leadership of Arjun Ranatunga. The Sri Lankan side, led by Lasith Malinga, joined the record books, helping Sri Lanka taste World Cup glory once again. In 2016 and 2021, West Indies and Australia won T20 World Cup tournaments respectively. The 2022 edition starts tomorrow in Australia with one question in everyone's mind. Who will be crowned champions this time? Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, England and Australia have each won the tournament once. The world's best players from 16 teams will play 45 matches around the country. Australia's fast pitches will decide the 2022 World Champions. Teams from Sri Lanka, Namibia, Netherlands, United Arab Emirates, Scotland, West Indies and Zimbabwe join the qualifying rounds, which starts tomorrow. Only one T20 international match has been played at the stadium, and in that game, Australia lost to Sri Lanka in a tense encounter. Sri Lanka won the match against Namibia by 7 wickets in the 2021 T20 World Cup. The Sri Lankan team is also scheduled to compete against the UAE and the Netherlands in the qualifying round.
So after a very good Asia Cup, so we are very much confident. The team is, the environment is really good, and we are well focused on our batting. So as it is the early summer, so the conditions will be somewhat different. So we are really focusing on that. Apart from that, I think the bowlers, they are really shaping up. So Chamira is back with us and Lahiru Kumar is back with us. So there are plus points coming from the Asia Cup. So yeah, it depends on the day. T20 cricket, we never know who will be going to win. So I think the better teams come out of the day win. So yeah, we are prepared for the challenge. So we are looking forward for a good tournament. We have played one time in Geelong, so we know the conditions really well about the dimensions, and we played the same opposition last year World Cup, so we know exactly what coming against us, and I think the Namibian side also well prepared, so they got good players in their side, so yeah, that's it.
I guess this year is a bit different contextually to last year, where we sort of could ride on that underdog factor and just go with it, and there's a bit of more expectation perhaps this year to go one better. Our preparations have been really nice, getting to Wangaratta in the countryside of Australia quite early, and getting accustomed to things around here.
Against 3 different teams in Geelong. Sports is really struggling.
The matches will be worked off in Australia's Adelaide, Gabba, Geelong, Hobart, Melbourne, Perth and Sydney stadiums, and all the action kicks off tomorrow. Sirsa TV, the official rights holder to broadcast the tournament, will bring you all the action live and uninterrupted starting tomorrow. Sports First is ready to bring you all the details.
And how are we preparing for the T20 World Cup? Let's take a look at how South Asia's biggest studio complex, Tyne Studios, is gearing up for the tournament. We're crossing over to Martin Satyanesan and Jama Ratnayaka.
Good evening, Sri Lanka. All preparations are set here at the Tyne Studios here in Ratmalana as Sirasa TV as the official broadcaster of the 2022 T20 World Cup, geared up to broadcast all the matches covering 25 days, 47 matches, and of course 16 nations will be taking part at this year's main important event in terms of cricket. Sri Lanka will be taking on Namibia in the first round tomorrow at Geelong, and the finals of this year's T20 World Cup will take place on the 13th of November at the historic Melbourne Cricket Grounds. Sri Lanka, after their resounding success at the Asia Cup, are surely considered to be a top favourite to win this year's title. Isn't that right, Jama?
Certainly, Martin. A very resurgent Sri Lankan team are ready and geared up to face some of the world's greatest teams, starting from tomorrow when they host Namibia at 8 a.m. in the morning. And we have live and exclusive access to broadcast all matches surrounding the entire World Cup from tomorrow onwards until the final, where coverage will start at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I must also remind our viewers, Martin, that in case you are disappointed that you might miss the match that is being telecast on TV, fear not, we got you covered. Simply log on to www.kiki.lk to watch the live webcast of all matches that will be broadcast during the course of the entire World Cup. And I must also remind you that Team Sri Lanka are once again geared up and ready to mount a very, very formidable title challenge for this year's T20 World Cup. I must also remind you once more that coverage will start tomorrow at 8 a.m. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Martin and Jamal, for bringing us that comprehensive update. Now, Sirasa TV, which owns the official broadcast rights for the tournament, will bring you live island-wide coverage of this coveted tournament. And like he said, if you are not able to watch matches on Sirasa TV from home, simply watch the Sirasa TV World Cup broadcast free of charge from anywhere on the kiki.lk website.
Jayagamu, Sri Lanka. Our boys will face the world at the T20 World Cup starting Sunday. Would you like to send Team Sri Lanka your wishes? Here is your chance. WhatsApp a 30-second clip of your creative wish to 0777 6020 and end your wish with Jayagamu, Sri Lanka. We will show Sri Lanka and the world how Sri Lankans support Sri Lanka. Jayagamu, Sri Lanka.
In other local developments, President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Saturday requested all to put aside party politics and commit to solving the food crisis.
The head of state made these comments while addressing the multi-sectoral integrated mechanism for empowering rural economic centres to ensure food security and nutrition in Ampara today.
දැනට තියෙන්නේ තමන්ගේ ප්‍රදේශවල වගාව ආරම්භ කරන්න ඒ ගැන වාර්තා කරන්න.
Right now we must start cultivations in your respective areas. The Food Security Division will inform us of the food items we will need in excess. There is no issue in paddy cultivation. If things continue, we will have an excess. Secondly, the food program for those suffering from malnutrition. The government will support food banks, food providing programs and communal kitchens. We cannot let anyone live without food. Let's all work together in doing this. We don't need party politics. Toss that aside. That provides food to the people. The basic production program of the country must focus on getting a successful harvest from the Maha season.
ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳන දේශපාලනට අපි යන්න ඕනේ. දැන් ඉඳන් අප්‍රේල් මාස වෙනකන් අපේ මූලික නිෂ්පාදන වැඩසටහන තියෙන්න ඕනේ විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ මහා කන්නේ සාර්ථක අස්වැන්නක් ලබා ගන්න.
Former chairman of COPE, Professor Charita Herots, on Saturday hit back at former Justice Minister and current Foreign Minister Ali Sabri against his remarks that the Cabinet of Ministers was clueless about the economic crisis.
Taking to Twitter, the former COPE chairman released a document which included a notice to the cabinet by the former finance minister Basil Rajapaksa with regard to the country's foreign currency outflows and the distribution of responsibility on foreign currency inflow. The annexure attached the document, which include the expected outflows and inflows during 2022, underlined the debt servicing payments, maturing sovereign bonds and expenses with regard to goods imports. Minister Ali Sabri on Friday said that the cabinet of ministers thought everything was okay and failed to recognize the depth of the economic crisis and were more invested in their own subjects and portfolios. The former COPE chairman shared the documents and pointed out that such is evidence that the financial issues were discussed at the cabinet, though no solution was found. He tweeted, quote, "True. First culprit of this disaster is the cabinet of which Ali Sabri was a part," end quote. The incident also sparked more discourse, with several notable figures commenting on the matter, with some pointing out that his resignation is the alternative to this issue.
Newsfirst has been reporting for a long time that our economy is being destroyed due to corruption, fraud and malpractice, and by not taking the right decisions at the right time, regardless of what the government officials had to say. We presented those reports based on warnings issued by scholars, professionals, civil society and other intellectuals about the economy of Sri Lanka. Moreover, a myriad of academics, with nothing but love for the country, pointed out if the situation is not managed soon, there is no stopping the downfall of the economy. They made these statements on programs such as Mavata. For example, we pointed out that the first central bank bond incident in February 2015 could lead to this collapse, while members of the government defended it. The government at the time did not pay any heed to this, and within a month, a second bond transaction was made, raising serious concerns. It's no secret that money belonging to funds such as the Employees Provident Fund, perhaps the only protection available for the working people who retire, was misused for the welfare of a few. We did not hesitate to continuously point out that it is the people of this country who will have to suffer as a result of schemes such as the bond scam, but also because of scams which were made to benefit just a few. Those who came to power after repeatedly promising the people that they would prosecute those who are responsible for the bond scam ended up reducing the reserves of the country to absolute zero. Scholars repeatedly warned that the country's economy was under threat just months after the government came to power in 2019. Dismissing concerns raised, the government invited danger in April 2020 when it banned the importation of chemical fertilizers. The restricting of imports and banning of chemical fertilizers culminated in the collapse of the country's food production by over 40%. According to the Department of Census and Statistics, the food inflation rate in the country remains at 95%. According to the World Food Programme, more than 6.3 million of the country's population is now food insecure. The entire country is now facing the consequences of the government's actions, despite the warnings of scholars, farmers, as well as the people of this country against the ban on chemical fertilizer imports. The income lost to the country's economy due to the large-scale tax concessions granted immediately after the 2019 administration came to power is close to ₹1 billion. That's almost half of the country's tax revenue. When tax concessions were granted, we pointed out it would be a death blow to the country's economy, but were our concerns taken into consideration? Now the VAT has reached 15%. Social security tax is 2.5%. Those are just the indirect taxes. Now there's a proposal for anyone who earns more than 100,000 rupees to pay tax from 6 to 36% of their income. The decision to grant concessions to close friends was not doubted even once. It was the Ministry of Finance which said that the revenue lost to the country by reducing and increasing tax on sugar for benefit of close associates is 16 billion rupees. Not just that, coconut oil and garlic were merely objects used in this game. The scholars of the country raised these concerns to the best of their ability. We spent hours of our invaluable airtime highlighting these concerns. Today, the whole country is suffering the consequences of disregarding these very concerns. Even the United Nations Human Rights Council is calling for immediate action on economic crimes committed. Let's put aside all that. The people of the country are struggling to survive. Fuel for vehicles is being purchased based on a quota. A three-wheeler driver gets 5 litres to earn a living for a day. A farmer cannot sell their paddy, at least to cover the cost. The income earned is not enough for the daily life of most of the people of this country. Are the citizens of this country responsible for this? Or was it those who did not make the right decisions at the right time? Are you not ashamed to say that you were not aware of these things? It's as if our rulers used a carpenter instead of a surgeon to perform a surgery on a dying country. Now when the patient is breathing his last, they say there's nothing they can do to save the patient. The people who uttered these very words now have the gall to say that they lacked the economic literacy to handle the economy at the time. Is it possible to escape from committing such economic crimes?
This is reality. This elder woman isn't the only one yearning for just a sip of clean drinking water. The village she calls home is also home to hundreds of others, and they face the same unfortunate situation. Unfortunately, it is often the common man that is affected by corruption, irregularities, fraud, and poor decision making. Rural Sri Lankans continue to live in abject poverty, often as a result of others' actions.
Come at the door-to-door.
Despite the inclement weather, the Come at the Door-to-Door teams continue to traverse Mathura, Puttlam and Baunia. The Come at the Door-to-Door team in the Mathura district visited several villages including Paraduwa, Puhulahena, Nimalava, Verangantalawa, Imbulgoda and Manigoda. The road leading to Tebudeniya village is in a dilapidated state. A pregnant mother who lives in this village, which is home to around 100 families, met with an accident due to this issue.
The
villagers of Imbulgoda, Ilukpalla and Manigoda are facing various difficulties due to the lack of access to clean drinking water. Despite a number of projects being launched, none of them have been implemented properly. The Come at the Door-to-Door team in the Baunia district met with the villagers in Pudiyanagar, Maravankulam, Sameyapuram and Ganesapuram, and the people put forward a plethora of issues. The main issue faced by the villagers of Maravankulam is the lack of access to clean drinking water. Around 20 people from the village, which is home to 200, are now victims of severe kidney diseases. This is an elderly couple from Maravankulam. Unfortunately, they are also victims of this kidney disease. The Come at the team in the Puttlam district toured the Sevvantiv, Manativ and Vilathe. The team met the fisher folk in Sevvantiv. The main issue faced by them are the fuel crisis and the rise in the cost of maintenance for boats. As a result, these fishermen only engage in fishing activities only near the coastal areas.
Come at the door-to-door.
News First with the people.
We're crossing over to another commercial break. Stay tuned.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, 25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
Back, you're watching Primetime News on News First. Moving on, the Deputy Director of the Asia and Pacific Department of the International Monetary Fund has said that Sri Lanka will remain a middle-income country despite the decline in GDP. She was speaking at an IMF press conference on the Asia and Pacific region's economic outlook.
Deputy Director, Asia Pacific Department of the IMF, Anne-Marie Gold-Wolf, responded to questions raised about Sri Lanka's progress towards debt restructuring negotiations, the IMF's program timeline, and whether Sri Lanka could be downgraded to low-income status.
It's difficult to predict a timeline because the process of debt negotiations is taking time, and with what we see from different countries that went through the process, these timelines differ depending on who the creditors are and what is involved. We certainly are supporting the process as much as we can, and we hope that everybody can work expeditiously to get a process underway, and discussions have been starting, including with support of all bilateral creditors that are involved. There were other questions on a possible downgrade and other multilateral lenders. On the other multilateral lenders, I would say that we are working very closely with the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the Asian Investment Bank on programs for Sri Lanka. Those programs would help closing the financing gap, but I want to say also very importantly that the policies under the other multilateral lenders in their areas of expertise will be important to resolve Sri Lanka's longer-term growth problems. On the downgrade, all I can say is that Sri Lanka is a middle-income country and remains a middle-income country even with the decline in GDP that we have seen. The EFF is not a concessional, it's a regular IMF facility.
Meanwhile, an event organized by the National Movement for Social Justice was held in Jaffna on Saturday. Former Speaker Karu Jayasuriya spoke about the 20th Amendment to the Constitution at the event.
Several dignitaries, including politicians, professionals and academics, were present at the event.
It is time that we restore democratic values. It is time that the 19th Amendment that was brought in at that time is restored. We think that the 20th Amendment were responsible for destroying the democracy in this country. The two-thirds majority that they wanted never delivered the good things that they promised. They never was able to, with all the power, it was not possible to give a better quality of life to the people. But the 19th Amendment brought about changes. It's not only the freedom that was given and not only the independence that was given to the society, the Sri Lanka got recognition from the world, from the civilized world, from the democratic world. The president of Sri Lanka, when he went overseas, US president come to him and thank him for the democratic reforms. He was to be nominated for Nobel Prize, but unfortunately the 2018 October incidents reversed the forward march on the democratic society that we was able to build. It is my view that the Parliament has a great responsibility to play. The problem can be solved more than by you and me, but by the Parliament, by the 225 members of the Parliament. They have to come to some consensus.
Actor Robbie Coltrane died at the age of 72. The Scottish actor achieved a global fame playing the character Hagrid in all 8 films of the Harry Potter series.
Known as Anthony Robert Macmillan, he was born on the 30th of March in 1950. His first screen credit was Waterloo Sunset, and the actor, comedian and writer also starred many films in the 90s. Coltrane began his career on stage while in his early 20s and later became known to UK television audiences. Coltrane was awarded the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II in 2006.
In some international news coming in from the UK, the country's new Chancellor or the new Finance Minister, Jeremy Hunt, says the British government has made mistakes. He made these comments referring to the Cabinet's controversial tax cut plans, which prompted turmoil in financial markets and triggered the abrupt sacking of his predecessor, Kwasi Kwarteng.
Hunt told foreign media, quote, "There were mistakes. It was a mistake when we are going to be asking for difficult decisions across the board on tax and spending to cut the rate of tax paid by the very wealthiest. In a separate interview on BBC Radio, Hunt also said that he had been sanctioned by Prime Minister Liz Truss to make further changes to the government's fiscal plans following 2 major U-turns on her tax-cutting agenda already. It also comes a day after Truss fired Kwarteng as her chancellor and scrapped parts of their controversial economic package in a desperate bid for political survival less than 40 days into her premiership.
And with that, it's a wrap of your news for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Mariam Gunavijaya. Good night and take care.